Hey, hey, I thought I would go ahead and pop on live just 1 minute early, just to kind of get us kick-started here, and hoping that anybody that sees this will decide to come on over and join us. This is actually video 2. The first video was last Monday, and it was mainly just an introductory session talking about the first chapter of the book. One thing that I did want to mention about that first section there is this part about where we're coming from. And so as I'm waiting for some people to join on live with us, I wanted to point out something. It was an afterthought that I had with that segment about where we're coming from. So one of the things about this book that bothers me just a little bit is that it really seems to have a negative connotation, talking about the habits that we need to get rid of versus the habits that we want to have. When I thought about if I wanted to do this book or not, I thought, well, I'll just transfer this thought. This is a good exercise. It's a good exercise to recognize the bad habit and how do we switch it around to be a positive and good habit for us to work on. And I thought, there are some really, really good points in here. I just don't like the angle that they take in the book. And regarding the part about where we came from, although I think it's really crucial that we look at where we came from to know why we have the behaviors that we have today and what we want to do about it to improve our behaviors for a better workplace environment. I also want to point out that there is nothing negative or bad about where we came from. So I believe this so strongly because there is so much that we can think about in our pasts, at least many of us. I know I have this feeling from time to time that there are some things in my past that just really don't make me feel that great, right? But if I look at it in the context that stuff made me who I am today. That stuff taught me XYZ and is the reason that I do XYZ in my life today. So it's always a positive journey. And I want to remind you about that because I don't think I stressed that enough in the first video, how important it is to look at where we came from a really positive growth lens. As I mentioned before, one of the things I love about these two teaming up for this book is that Marshall Goldsmith's book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, is an important book that looks at what are the strengths that I have that got me here, and then what do I need to uplift and take to the next level for the next phase that I'm trying to pursue. So just a little reminder about looking at our past stories and past behaviors in a positive light and remembering that all of it is a beautiful place to be in and really gets us to the end result, whether we know it right now or not. It will get you to the end result that you desire. So on that note, I want to just step back a little bit and welcome anybody that's popping on right now live. If you are coming on the replay, I want to welcome you as well. And I hope that you leave some comments here in anything that we talk about, some personal statements, personal visions or thoughts that you have about anything that we talk about here today, to share some experiences that you've had and enlighten others with something that can really help serve them. I'm especially inviting women that have gone to higher level positions that really have some great insight to contribute to anybody that would come in and join this discussion later on the replay or even on the live. So any thoughts you have, go ahead and put them in there. And if you have thoughts while the session is going on, I'll have to go back and reply to those later, but please do make any comments that you have right now. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Princella, and I'm happy that you've decided to participate in this discussion, one of the only book discussions that you probably probably one of the only discussions that you don't need the book for, because I want to highlight certain things in the chapters that I have read and invite you to have the conversations out loud about where this fits in your life and how it has served you, and maybe what are some things that you wanted to up level in the future, and have the discussions about how to up level them. So I want also to let you know that the purpose for this video and any video that I create is to help women claim their power, to live their best life. That is my intention for any videos and anything that I post on my Facebook page. I almost said website, but on my Facebook page. And my goal is to help women tackle the issues that are getting in the way of living out an authentic life, personally and professionally. So that's why I'm here. That's what I do, and that's what I want to encourage you with. So again, my name is Princella, and happy to have you here. And I'd love to hear from you and where you're popping in from. So, but I want to also note that there's a slight distinction here that I want to make, that there are women that may join this discussion that have gotten to certain levels in their workplace, in their life, and they hadn't felt the impacts of someone's opinion or thoughts or behaviors really impacting them in a way where it got in the way of their success, and they did not go to the level that they wanted to go to. There are some women that this was not a factor. Did it bother them? Yes. Did it have pause for thought? Yes. But it didn't stop them from achieving the levels that they want to achieve. I invite you to be in on this discussion, because I really want this to be a place where we can uplift each other, share experiences, and have that dialogue going about, how did I get through this challenge? What did I do? What did I say that helped me to overcome that, either for myself mentally and internally, or outwardly? What did I say to that person in response to the action that happened, or the response that was made against me? So that's what this platform is for. And I also want to note that there's also the woman that maybe you're in your first couple years of your career, and you are a powerhouse right now because you're energetic and joyful and ready to be in the game. You're making bold moves, and you raise your hand for the tough stuff. As a matter of fact, you probably don't even realize that it's a tough position to be in, to raise your hand in that circle that you're in, because it's new to you. You're in your first couple of years in that position. What happens many times, though, is in the beginning, and I don't want to say that this happens to everybody. Either you're going to excel and you have your framework and your ability to power through, and you don't let other people's actions and words get in your way. And then there's the other side of the coin, where you're in your position for a couple years, and then those things start impacting you. Your boss maybe says something and speaks over you, or a peer says something and takes your idea. These things might happen, and after time, we may or may not speak up and say anything anymore. This happens so many times, where in the beginning we are gung-ho speaking up and speaking our mind. And then all of a sudden something happens where that starts dwindling down and dwindling away. This is the woman that I want to speak to most, because I want to empower you to keep that voice that you had strong, keep that hand raising, take your seat at the table, and be able to share your viewpoint in an intelligent, productive, effective way. So that is the intention behind what we are doing here. So I also want to say that there are some women that maybe never had that level of activity in their workplace. They didn't feel empowered walking in to be able to stand their ground, speak their voice. And you're here because you want to build that muscle. And I invite you to come in and share your thoughts on how to build that muscle. That is what this group is also for. This is why I invite all women of different professions and different levels of achievement so that we can uplift and empower each other. So for this woman in particular, it becomes nearly sufferable in your own thoughts when you're faced with a situation where someone else's view, someone else's words, someone else's actions impacted you in a negative way. And it made you pull back. Not for just pause, not for just a moment, but it made you pull back and completely retreat to just do your job. I want to really address that right now, because when you're stuck in a position where you're just doing your job for the paycheck, it will be very challenging to love your job. It will be challenging to grow in your job. It will be challenging to exceed expectations and show your stuff and have opportunities to show your stuff that you are fully capable of. And so if this speaks to you and you are that woman that was shut down by somebody and never got to that place of wanting to speak your voice, but you're here for a reason. You are here watching this right now because you want to learn to start exercising that muscle and regain that power that is within you, and you just need some guidance on how to be able to execute that in the real world. That is who this group is for. So the other thing I want to say too right now on that note right there is that there is new information now in neuropsychology. Now, I am not an expert in neuropsychology. I want to say that straight away. That is not my background. But I am learning every day about things that really help empower us to get us to the next level. And one of the most amazing things that I've been learning about lately is neuropsychology and neuroscience. Matter of fact, when I was typing my notes for this, my MacBook kept wanting to autocorrect my typing. That's how new this is. Neuropsychology, that's how new this is. So I'm going to give you a little visual here. And so in our brains, now you have to forgive me because I'm not, like I said, it's not my background, so I don't remember the exact terms, but just roll with me here and think about this for a moment. In our brain, we have all these connectors of thought, okay? So something happens, something happens in our life and it's swimming around with this thought. I don't know how else to explain this. Swimming around this thought. Next thing you know, we have a belief system that's going to latch onto that thought. The more that something happens to strengthen this belief system and this thought, whether it's negative or positive, it will strengthen over time the more we have that experience. Next thing you know, it's one and the same, and it's one link here, for lack of a better word, lack of a scientific word, that bounds this until we can break the link. It can be broken. If you have something that you have trouble getting over or overcoming, a thought that's always getting in your way to be able to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish, or behavior that gets in the way from accomplishing what you want to accomplish, that's what that is. And neuroscience today, neuropsychology today is telling us, the research that they've done for years and years, it's new to us in the mainstream, but it isn't new in the science world, in the psychology world. And what it's telling us today is that it is possible to break this thing. It may be tight and glued for the moment, but it can be broken apart, and new behaviors that will support our success can be bound together and nurtured and kept. The reason that this gets strengthened in the negative, if it is negative, is because the behavior kept happening, and that kept strengthening and strengthening. Well, guess what? If it can happen in the negative, it can happen in the positive. It can happen for success and growth. This is the wonderful thing about the knowledge that we have today, is that we now know we can break those negative habits and form strong habits. When we expand our brain in that way with the new habits that are forming, it will take a lot of repetition of negativity to break that away again. But now that we're the wiser, if we see that that's happening, we can stop it from occurring. If we're already in a state of positivity and growth, and we see that flourishing, and we see that growth potential, and we see the future, this only gets stronger if you allow it. So this is what I'm very excited to share with you today, is that any behaviors that you have in the past that have limited you and stopped you from the success that you know you are fully capable of, we can change that. If you're interested in learning more about that, I do have a contact that I would love to share with you. I'm not an affiliate or anything, but I took some informational webinars of hers learning about this, and I've read some books that have supported me and my journey. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, I'd love to recommend the sources that I have been learning from. So just let me know if you're interested in that. But it really, what that was all about is just empowering you to believe that things can be changed. And I wanted to give you that visual of how that happens in our brain, and how it can change, and it is possible. So this is video 2, and this video is about chapter 4. So in chapter 4, we're talking about the 12 habits. So I'm going to take a drink of my coffee. Yes, I drink coffee at nighttime. My throat got a little bit dry with that discussion there. I get so passionate about that because I'll tell you what, there were so many years that I really believed that I could not change me. I am who I am. This is who I am. And I believed that for so long. I have a terrible memory. I can't learn as fast as everybody else. I'm forgetful. I just said I have a terrible memory, but you know, all of these things that I thought were going to limit me to finding my success. Well, guess what? When I nurtured and practiced and developed that part of my brain, it got stronger and stronger. So I'm so passionate about that, because if I can change my behaviors, you can absolutely change your behaviors as well. So all right, so I have a couple notes here on the board, and I will get to those in just a second. But first, I kind of want to just talk about what this chapter 4 is about. As I said before, you don't need to have the book. My cover is missing, but I've got it in the Facebook group. This book is How Women Rise by Sally Helgenson and Marshall Goldsmith. You don't need to have the book to be a part of this discussion, because I'm going to cover the talking points here for you. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but here we have some gender neutral, and you see this list right here, some gender neutral habits. Gender neutral habits that are right there. But this list right here are the habits that are more specific to men, habits that men have. I thought I would just rattle these off a little bit, because I think that many of us can identify with some of these habits that we've seen, maybe in men, and maybe we've even seen them in ourselves, and we just didn't know that they were a negative habit. So if this is a negative habit that's typically a male trait that you have, I'd love for you to leave a note in the comment box and let me know. Let me know if this habit has served you, or if it's been a negative impact on your life, or maybe how you've turned this habit into something, negative habit into something positive. So now all of these habits came from Marshall's original book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And they took all those habits and tried to transfer them to what it looks like for a female, for a woman in the workplace, for the woman that that they learned about through years and years of working with women. What habits did these women, these successful women, have that inhibited them from getting to where they wanted to be? Anyhow, so this list right here is specifically geared toward men. So one of the behaviors that men have is a negative habit of winning too much. Winning too much. How is this a negative habit? I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure that some of you will have some stories for me to share. Winning too much. Telling the world how smart you are. Wow. Claiming credit you don't deserve. Again, these are habits that that this book says are habits that negative habits that men have that do not support them getting ahead. Failing to give others proper recognition, using anger as a management tool, refusing to express regret, failing to express gratitude, and passing the buck. So again, those were habits that are geared more toward men, and some habits that they have had, that some men have had in the past, that did not serve them well in the future to get them to the next level. Okay. So I just wanted to throw those out there just to get some feedback from you on what you thought about those habits. So now these next habits that I'm going to talk about that are listed right here are considered to be gender neutral. I'd love to hear your opinion on these, if these are gender neutral in your workplace environment, in past experiences that you've had, or maybe even in your own life. You know, do you see this as a more male-dominated habit, or is this a habit that you're incorporating into, that you have incorporated into your own life? If so, where did you learn this from? How has it served you? And how has it held you back in some ways? And what did you learn from it? So, so the first one we have here is a gender neutral habit of passing judgment. Now, many times I hear this from many people that we consider ourselves pretty positive people, right? Well, some of us. I mean, some of us know that we have a negative viewpoint on many things, and some of us know that we have a more positive viewpoint. So I want to remind you that if at any point in your career or in your life, you've had a thought in your mind, well, why would she do that? Or what does he mean by that? Comments like that, these are passing judgment. These are passing judgment on others. And another question I had in here is if you would think of, you know, I would never do that. That is passing judgment. And I think sometimes we say these things in passing out of habit, and we don't think about it. We don't think about it being a negative viewpoint, or bringing negativity into the space, or passing judgment. We don't see it that way because it's just been a habit that we have formed and have stuck with. So I want to invite you to think about how, when you hear yourself thinking in a judgmental way, how do we flip that script in our minds so that it's something less judgmental? Now, these are habits, again, that are gender neutral, meaning it was common with males and also common with females that are in the workplace. So let's see, I have something highlighted here in the book. Okay, so this is a great point in the book, which is exactly why would you expect that all the people you work with would have the same standards of behavior that you do? So here's the thing on that. What I wanted to share is that we don't all have the same thoughts and behaviors because we have different experiences, right? We have different goals. Some of us are happy where we're at and we want to stay there, and we just want to perform the best that we can and do the best job that we can. Now, this is different from the person that's at their level stagnant and they're just doing their work because it's their job and that's what they're paid to do, versus the person that wants to stay in the position where they're at and they want to do the best they can in that role that they're at. So there's right. So what I was going to say is that I had to jar my memory again, is that we're all in a different place, a different time in our life, different experiences, different values, different goals. So either we want to stay in the position that we're in, or we have goals to be the VP in 5, 6, 7, 8 years. What are your goals and how are they different from other individuals? This is why communication is so valuable. Now, we don't have to spill the beans and tell everybody what our goals and missions are, but just recognize what someone else's goals are. Maybe having that conversation. So where do you see yourself in a year from now? Having conversations like that with your peers or your subordinates are a great segue into learning more about them. And when we learn more about each other in the workplace, we can pass less judgment. We can go ahead and have those conversations to invite that dialogue and learn more about each other so that we're less likely to pass judgment and less likely to come up with our own assumptions about what's happening in that person's life. I was really good at having a certain level of expectation with conversations I would have. So if I wanted to share a thought with somebody, I'm expecting it's going to be A or B. Well, they throw me a curveball, it's actually C because they have another agenda going on. So having those dialogues and discussions is very important to eliminate that. So the next one here is starting with sentences and conversations with no, but, and however. I am very guilty of doing this. I do this very often. I thought it was a great way to say, however. Another way we can look at it is, or I learned to say yes, but versus no, but, you know, I learned to say yes, but. I'm also learning that maybe just allowing the other person the space to fully flush out their thought process and hearing the full scope of their perspective may be more helpful than me interjecting with, yes, but. So we all want to have our own opinions heard, right? And we want to be the first to say it, right? You know, I say all, but women that are striving to get ahead in the workplace, we want our voices to be heard. We want to share our opinions. If you didn't want to share your opinion and have your voice heard, you wouldn't be striving to get to the next level at your job. You just wouldn't. It's just nature, human nature. If you're striving to get ahead, you're going to want your voice to be heard. So I want to also take some notes from the book here. It says here in the book, you may habitually use negative qualifiers to start your sentences during meetings and performance reviews. You may even use them in brainstorming sessions where the idea that no idea is a bad idea, but then you start off with, no, we're not doing that, or however, we can look at it this way or that way. You know, all of these things are negative qualifiers. And so this is where we want to look at our own conversations. If you ever have a chance to record a meeting that you're leading or sitting in, record yourself so that you know what you are in the habit of saying. Some habits we don't pick up on in the moment. We have to hear a playback. For instance, the first video that I did, I can't believe how many times I said I really thought, I was like, oh, yes, I didn't say that much. Listening to the video and the captions, I said over and over again. I had no idea. So, which is probably the case in this video too. So record your conversation, record the meeting, find out how many times do I start with negative qualifiers. You have gotten in the habit. Maybe this isn't a bad habit that you've picked on. Maybe it's a strength of yours. And as a matter of fact, if you used to have this as a bad habit, how did you get over it? How did you change that behavior? So I'd love to hear from you how you changed that, and maybe did you do an exercise? Did you practice it? Did you read a book? So share those thoughts with us if you would, please. So by the way, right now I just want to kind of acknowledge anybody that may have popped on the replay and just remind you that if you've popped on and have been listening right now at this point, I want to invite you to share your thoughts and anything that I'm talking about here. I'd like to hear a couple different things. One, if you're a woman that has found a level of success in the position that you're in now and have some insight to share on anything that I'm presenting today through this book, How Women Rise. If you have some insight on a good experience you had, a negative experience and how you turned it around, or what you did to break through certain issues that we're talking about today, I'd love for you to share that in the comments. Obviously today I can't take a look at any comments if you're here live, and I will go back to those later. All right, so the next habit that I want to talk about, which is a part of the gender neutral topic. So we've talked about passing judgment, right? And we've talked about the negative qualifiers, starting with no, but, and however. And so now we're going to talk about making excuses. So this is kind of a tough one for me, because I was a single mom for many years. And although I had certainly understandable circumstances where sometimes I was late for work, sometimes I couldn't make it in, and it wasn't because I was sick, it was because my child was sick, or the school was closed and my babysitter I had lined up wasn't able to babysit anymore. These things would happen to me as a single mom. As a married person or a person with a partner in your life, you may have some support, you may not have some support. You may have a partner or a spouse and you still feel like a single parent. Whatever your circumstances are, and even if you're a single person, this habit applies. We're calling this a gender neutral habit, where men and women often have this occur in their life as a negative habit, making excuses. So have you ever walked into a meeting late? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late. I got a flat tire and blah, 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 blah. And you just go on and on with your story. Okay, everybody just continue. Go on. Now, if you're the person in the seat listening to this, I want you to recognize what it's like for the people that are in the meeting, where the meeting was abruptly interrupted with someone coming in tardy and trying to excuse their tardiness. If you're an observer watching the person coming in, it's never helpful. It really isn't. So unless your boss asks for a reason for your tardiness, which I don't think that that's a healthy situation to be in, or a healthy question to ask in front of everybody, especially if it's something personal. But it happens, right? So unless you're asked by an authority in the room, you don't go into those details. Even though you have a valid reason, it still comes off as an excuse. So some other good ones in here that they talked about where, this is a good one. Sorry, I missed the meeting. My Google Calendar malfunctioned. Does it help? Is it helpful? Does it excuse you? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Especially if you're someone that is susceptible to having good excuses time after time after time. There's one equal equation, or one equal party in that equation, and that is you, my friend. So if you're a person that offers too many excuses, gives too much reasoning for tardiness or a project being late, or not participating. I'm sorry, I can't participate because I have a headache. Well, nobody really needs to know that in the meeting, okay? So I want to just reiterate that, because like I said, in my life, I was a single mom for quite a few years, and I had every excuse in the book, and I used them. Did it ever help me? No, absolutely not. It delayed my ability to get the promotion that I wanted to make more money for my family. It delayed it. So you have to just kind of bite your tongue. Bite your tongue if you want to give that excuse. If all eyes are on you, I apologize, I'm tardy. Let's continue, please. That's it. End of story, and moving on. No excuses. Just because it's true and valid does not mean that it's not an excuse. It is an excuse. It's still an excuse. Okay, so both men and women often make subtle excuses, but the excuses women use often seem almost designed to put them in a poor light. I highlighted this because I really wanted to read this part to you, because I have been guilty of these things as well. So these are the things that we must stop saying. If you used to say these, and you've cured yourself of these excuses, I want to hear from you in the comments. If you still say these today, I want you to claim in the comments it stops today. It stops today. No more excuses. No more putting yourself in a negative light. So here's one that I used to use all the time. I've always been, well, I didn't say this exactly. I've always been a disorganized person, but I used to always say, I've always had a bad memory. That was my thing. Did it help? No. It put me in a negative light. These are comments not to say. I don't seem able to keep my mouth shut. How does that help anyone? Does not help anyone. I'm way too into people pleasing. It's a terrible fault. Now, again, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse on how important it is to stop belittling yourself and stop putting yourself in a negative light. When you make such statements, you may feel as if you're assuming responsibility for your actions, but others hear you as suggesting that you are incapable of change, incapable of the job, incapable of the responsibilities. This is the persona that you're giving when you allow the excuses and you allow yourself to be shown in a negative light keep coming up. Once, allowable. Cut it off from there. And so I want to just really encourage you to do that. You never gain an advantage by stereotyping yourself in a negative manner, and you undercut your ability to let go of behaviors that hold you back if you cling to the self-defeating belief that they are somehow a part of your genetic makeup. So this is the reason that I wanted to start this video with the visual of the connectors, and that we are able to break that connector and then form new lovely habits that will enrich and grow our success and enrich our lives. So I'd love to hear from you if any of that makes sense to you and where you are with that. Okay, so moving on, what time do we have? Okay, so we're at about 36 minutes now, so this is great. All right, making excuses, check. The final one that is a gender neutral habit, a negative gender neutral habit, is excessive need to be me. So this is really interesting because right now, in today's day and age, we are living in a time of Facebook Lives, right? We are living in a time of authenticity, realness, transparency. Brene Brown is one of my favorite authors, and she has a book all about transparency. And I haven't gotten the book yet. I'd love to hear if somebody has the book, but I watched some of her videos on the topic, and good stuff. Good stuff. Dare to Lead. Dare to Lead is the name of the book. So let's see. The excessive need to be me. So the important thing here is the excessive need. So in the workplace, we know that there are things that we have to bend a little bit, meet people halfway, meet people 3/4 of the way or a quarter of the way, depending on how important this particular topic or project is to you. There are times that we have to do that. And then there are times that we have to fight for what we know is right. And as long as we understand the value that is brought to your way for the sake of the department, the sake of the company, if you can validate it through that type of information, that type of data that can really support the need to be who you are in that circumstance, if that makes sense. I hope this is making sense to you. Then by all means, right? But an excessive need to be me is something that will hinder you if there is no leeway, no room for communal discussions, no room for meeting each other at a certain level. So it's challenging because you hear everywhere about authenticity and transparency and how valuable this is, and it is very valuable. But there, like everything, there is a line to draw. Okay, so it is often the idea often seems to be that honesty requires indulging your faults or proclaiming your shortcomings. So in that respect, in that thought of authenticity in the workplace and the need to be me, many times, like the text says, it invites us to be a little too transparent. Okay, so a moment ago I was talking about how you feel that your strongest suit is you being you. Maybe you're in sales and you have a certain sales approach that works well for you, but it doesn't work well for the whole team. And we want to say, but this is me. I bring in good money. I bring in value to the company. But if it isn't something that's serving everybody really well, then we have to think about, is this the best case scenario for the company and for the position that you're in? Let's see. So I want to share here from the book also that though an excessive need to be me is gender neutral, men and women often manifest it in different ways. One of the authors of the book, Marshall, he hears from senior male executives vehemently defending their unwillingness to praise people who work for them on the grounds that to do so would be phony. That's not how I talk, they say. It wouldn't be authentic for me to gush over a subordinate's performance. Now, women are caught in the authenticity trap, that are caught in that trap are more likely to say things such as, I'm just not the self-promoting type. Okay, that's what women may say. But if you know a behavior isn't working for you and you persist in doing it anyway, that's not being authentic. It's just being stubborn, as the book says. And I think this is a very valid point. I had it underlined here in my book. It's not being authentic, it's just being stubborn. We have got to look for the greater good in the circumstances that we are in. If we're working in an environment where we're working for with other people in teams and groups, we've got to look at the broader scope picture here. So whenever you hear yourself proclaiming that something is just not you, you might want to question your motivation. You might want to question your motivation. An excessive devotion to a particular self-image can be a rationale for remaining stuck. I'm going to read that again because I think I kind of read it wrong. An excessive devotion to a particular self-image can be a rationale for remaining stuck. It's a form of obstinacy. Am I saying that right? obstinacy, that will get in your way as you seek to rise. Do we want anything else getting in our way as we're seeking to rise? No, of course not. So I'd love for you to share your thoughts on these gender neutral habits that men and women have. And if you're someone that in these categories, it applies to you. Are you passing judgment on people? Are you starting with a negative connotation of no, but, and however? Are you making too many excuses in your workplace or in life in general? And then the final one is, do you have an excessive need to be me? Are you stuck in a certain habit because this is you and this is who you are and you're not going to change? So if any of these negative habits are you, I want you to write down which one pertains to you most, and you can either do it privately or in the comments, and flip that script. How are you going to say this habit and form it into a new habit, a new positive habit? For instance, I am not an excuse-driven individual. I am authentically me with boundaries. Boundaries are good. Boundaries are healthy. In XYZ circumstance, you will see this side of me. In this circumstance, I need to understand this so that I can be this side of me. Does that make sense? So I hope that really helps you in looking at those judgments or in those habits. So another final thought that I have that I wanted to share is, let's see, I have a note here to share 61 and 62 in my book. All right. So I also wanted to note here that some limiting behaviors that you have now that may be getting in your way of getting you to the next level, at some point these behaviors served you really, really well. Maybe you had to be judgmental of someone in a group at a lower level position, and it helped you to strategize a little bit. You got to know this person, you learned about their intention, and in learning about their intention and their habits, you started to form some judgments, and so you made your own call on what you needed to do to have a positive outcome for yourself. You know, it's hard to say that in that way because we never want to put somebody else in a negative light or accentuate someone's negativity to get ahead, or something negative that's happening to get ahead of them. You know, we want to have a level playing field, but honestly the world just does not operate that way sometimes. So maybe sometimes passing judgment and making decisions based off of that served you well at some point. But at this point, it will inhibit you if you don't change that pattern to elevate yourself to the next level. And later on, as we go through the book, we'll talk about some more positive habits that you can form, or ways to change these negative habits and turn them into positives, so that you can take that skill and have it help elevate you to the next level. So if you've had, let's see, I can't see a case where that would be an excessive need to be me. So in the example that I gave earlier, if you're in sales and your way of performing brought you lots of sales and put you in the limelight to be looked at for promotion, and you know in your heart of hearts, you know in your mind that the way you do business or the way you get sales is not going to work for the full team. You wouldn't be able to get a promotion into a position of training others in sales with the habit that you formed in your current role to get ahead. We have to analyze, you know, is this practice going to work for everyone? You're aiming for the next level. You're aiming for that promotion. Are the habits that I'm forming now and doing now to achieve and get ahead going to help elevate me and be able to, and be something that I can transfer to other people and teach other people? Only you know that. So what got you here will not get you there, right? So in that, I want to share here that what I have noted here on page 61 and 62 is that in one of the authors, Mr. Goldsmith, he conducted 360-degree feedback. He conducted those consistently with every person that he worked with. And in that, he learned a lot about the leader. He learned a lot about their subordinates and how to make the work environment better. So he took all that data, and that's how he got the book that he wrote. So in that data, that feedback consistently shows that women in organizations are perceived as being more effective leaders than men. So he had years and years and years of experience with this feedback, 360 feedback, and collected all that data. And the consensus was that in general, women were, and we know this, don't we? So to have this data backed up in this makes me feel good to share this with you, that in all that, we know that women are more effective leaders than men. Many people find this surprising, not that women are more effective leaders, but that it is a widely held perception about specific women inside of the organization. So if you're working for an organization, chances are many people in that organization will see a woman leader as a more effective leader than one of her male counterparts. Now, this doesn't mean that every woman is seen as more effective. We know that, of course. Some men are more effective than other men. Some men will be more effective than women, and vice versa. So the consensus in the data showed that it is more likely for a woman to be seen as more effective. But it does mean that the average woman is statistically viewed as a better leader than the average man. It has also been shown that one of the factors that gets in the way from women getting into the higher level position is that she didn't ask for it. She didn't ask for the raise. She didn't put herself in a light where her achievements can be seen by the upper level management. And we'll talk about that more in this book as well. It is a reassuring and empowering message for women to understand that most companies will view a woman, on average, a better leader. But his feedback analysis also makes clear that women are much harder on themselves than men are. They tend to worry more about their perceived faults, and they feel greater pressure to make improvements. In the first video, I shared how a man looked at his results from the 360 feedback, and he said, what do they expect from me? I'm the top salesperson. I bring the most money in here. I don't need to change. They need to change. But when a woman got her feedback, her response was, wow, I have a lot to work on. Now, Mr. Goldsmith was hugely impressed with the feedback that he got on her achievements, on her leadership style, and how people perceived her. Yet she said, I have a lot to work on. So it says a lot about men and women individually and how we get ahead. This can be useful because it makes you willing to change. Change is good. I mean, in our world today, change happens quicker. Before we even know it, change is happening already before we even recognize. So this is a valuable asset that women have, is that they're willing to change. But getting caught up in self-reproach or beating yourself up for being a flawed human being is always counterproductive. You can't lead and you can't make helpful improvements in your behavior if you're consistently beating yourself up. We are all culprits of this. We beat ourselves up. So that's why he puts the ground rule down when he's working with women. The number one ground rule that he has in working with women is do not be too hard on yourself. So I want to urge you through this book to keep that in mind and urge you to recognize that what got you here, wherever you are today, will not get you there. The flip side of every limiting behavior is always a strength. The limiting behavior of passing judgment, the flip side to that is always a strength. Seeing two sides to every coin, the flip side of passing judgment. A leader of wanting to know their team better, the flip side of passing judgment. Always a positive. It can always be a positive and a strength that subordinates and peers will value. Strengths such as empathy, humility, diligence, and reliability underlie many of the behaviors described in this book. So as we talk about the behaviors and we think about what we want to work on, we need to take the time to celebrate what got you here, what got you to the position that you're in right now. Maybe you're not where you want to be, but take a moment to celebrate how you got to where you are and honor that part of your journey. So as a matter of fact, I would love for you to share where are you today and what are you most proud of and the accomplishments that you have made up to date. What are you most proud of and what do you value most, and what do you want to share with this group is something that you are most proud of. So if you're sitting right now thinking, I'm not going to share, I don't have anything to say, dig a little deeper. Take the time to share right now, because this is the only way that this group is going to be, or this discussion is going to be productive and helpful for anyone that is watching. So now I've taken almost an hour now. I really wanted to get into the very first habit that we would be talking about, but we've kind of run out of time here. But this habit 1, I cannot read it backwards. Habit 1, reluctance to claim your achievements. So next Monday, we are going to talk about that piece. Habit 1, which is a reluctance to claim your achievements. From here on out, we're going to be talking about the 12 habits that hold you back from getting to the next level. Now, this is where I want to invite you to go ahead and look at the PDF that I put in the group. Actually, I think I need to transfer that over to this group. I will attach that here, the PDF, where you can recognize habit number 1. And if it's a habit that you want to work on, you're going to reframe that habit to a positive. Reframe it to something that you want to work on. And what does it sound like? What does it look like in your life for it to be a positive habit to help you get to the next level? So reluctance to claim your achievement, we'll talk about some examples of what that might be in the next video, video 3, which will be next Monday. And the date next Monday, let me see, I'll pull up my calendar real quick here, is the 15th. April 15th, we can discuss this next habit 1 of reluctance to claim your achievements. And we will also get into habit number 2, which is expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward your contributions. So if we are reluctant to claim our achievements, certainly we're expecting that our bosses are going to know what we're doing. Our peers are going to know what we're doing and what we're working on and what we're excelling in. So obviously they should be giving us recognition, or why didn't I get recognized for all that work that I put in? Well, if they don't know that you're putting the work in, how are they going to recognize you? So we're going to talk about those 2 habits, talk about how it limits you, and talk about what we can do to change that habit to have it be more of a positive outcome for you. So I hope you found this information valuable and helpful. If you are encouraged by this information, I'd love for you to share this time with somebody, share the video with somebody. Momentarily, I'll go ahead and load the recording after this is complete, this live is complete, and put that recording in there. And I'll also put the access to the PDF that I made so that you can see the new habits that you'll be transferring into your life. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. My name is Princella Stringer, and I hope to see you next Monday. If you catch me on the replay, go ahead and leave your comments. I'd love to hear from you. I want to know what's working, what's not working. Is this worth it? I want to know that the time that we're spending together right now for a full hour on Monday nights is serving you well. If it's not serving you well, I want to hear, what would you like to hear more about? Okay, so have a great day, great night, great week. It's the start of the week. Monday. Start looking at Mondays as a happy day versus, oh, it's Monday. What can we do today to make Monday's a happy day and productive day? And I'd love to hear some insights from you on how you start your Mondays. So lots to get back to me on. So have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Bye.